pulled up another paper here. It says here, correcting the gross misinterpretation of black dwarf stars with stellar metamorphosis. Now, I received a lot of hatred and ridicule the past few days. Apparently, black dwarf star was looked up quite often. I think it was around January 31st. And everybody flocked to one of the videos where I sounded really aggressive with my interpretations for black dwarf and stating how Venus was a black dwarf. But I think what we should go over here is that we have a different definition for black dwarf, completely different than what establishment astrophysics considers as reasonable. This is my definition. I think is much more reasonable. Theirs is hypothetical, it's unseen, unverified, theoretical, I don't know, however you want to say it. It's pitted against the definition I have underneath the general theory of stellar metamorphosis. And just to go over this, you can look this up on Wikipedia if you want. It's still there, I believe. Black dwarf will have a mainly smooth surface due to the black dwarf's high gravity, with very few irregularities such as mountains. The surface would also be dry, with no surface volatiles such as water. The atmosphere of the black dwarf would consist mainly of carbon and would contain no clouds or weather system due to the thinness of the atmosphere. And that is it in a nutshell. Unfortunately, these things have never been observed, ever, anywhere in the entire universe, which is bad science. This is bad science. When you make a definition for something, at least have an observation of what it is you're defining. Here, they've invented something that has never been observed. This isn't science. This is what's called pseudoscience. And pseudoscience looks like science, but it's not. It's fake. And I have written here, you can read this on your own, but this is the part I want to explain. This is a correct description of black dwarf. I went ahead and redefined it. That way we can actually do experiments on it and we can see them, which is really good. You know, for science, you want to have things that you can observe, not things that you can just invent and then say, oh, this has to be real. That isn't how science is done. First, you have to observe something. So this, what it does on the first off, it means we can observe this because we've defined black dwarfs in such a way that it's possible. They have both rough and smooth surfaces due to the black dwarf's weak gravity. That's a big difference between this and the theoretical and non-observed part, which are called mountains, valleys, and plateaus. The surface is also wet or dry, depending on its orbit with a host star and the conditions of the environment, such as deserts or swamps. Some with lots of surface volatiles, such as water. The atmosphere of the black dwarf consists mainly of oxygen, carbon dioxide, argon, and nitrogen, and contain clouds as well as a weather system, depending on the black dwarf's location to its host star, if one should be in the vicinity. Basically, it means the surface volatiles will be dependent on how close it is to a host star. So if you say there's a really hot star down here somewhere, and you have a black dwarf over here, whether or not it can retain an atmosphere or not will determine its proximity to that host star. If it's too close, as in Mercury, all this atmosphere will be ripped away and there will be no atmosphere at all. And regenerating atmosphere will be really, really hard. But with Earth is really far away, it can have an atmosphere. Same thing with Venus. But Venus is a black dwarf and, well, more on that later. And basically, I wrote, it's kind of funny, easy as cake. Will establishment correct themselves? Probably not. The reason why they don't want to correct themselves is because inventing things is what they do the best. They love to invent things that have never been observed, that can never be tested, and if they can be tested, they go ahead and invent these mathematical models that supposedly are scientific, but no. A mathematical model is not science. Science is actually observing something and then explaining it and defining it in a way that makes sense. This makes a whole hell of a lot more sense than this. because number one, these never been observed, and they invented all this. Where did this come from? Nobody knows. Maybe I should look it up. But basically they say this is the end result of a white dwarf, which is really, really, really strange. But there you go. If you want to touch a black dwarf, you can go outside and put your hand on the ground and pick up the sand, because that's what one is in the general theory of stellar metamorphosis. Today is February 11th, 2016.